Yo, K-Kunnnn here. Today I'm going to show you how to clear the new Shiyu Defense floors and how you can clear it as an F2P. I'm going to tell you some tips and gameplay footages while I commentate. So without further ado, let's get started. So before we enter the battle, we have to familiarize ourselves with the Shiyu Buff this rotation, which is kind of important, and the teams that I have used for this rotation. So what is the Shiyu Buff this rotation? It's called the Fervor Buff. When an enemy is stunned, all squad members gain 2 stacks of Fervor, and when an attribute anomaly is triggered, all squad members gain 1 stack of Fervor. Fervor lasts for 20 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. The duration of each stack is calculated separately. For each stack of Fervor, the agent's attack is increased by 10% and anomaly proficiency is increased by 10. This is obviously a buff to like Jane Doe to make her stronger for this Shiyu rotation, but there's also one character and probably others as well, and that is Piper and probably K-Kunnnn, I think, that can utilize this buff. So let's move on to the team section. We have the standard Ellen, Nekomiya, and Sokaku comp, and also insert Rina just for fun with Shark Boo. And the second team is Nekomiya, Piper, and Nicole with Bang Volver. So I'll show you the Ellen team first. Ellen has one of the best stats in my account just by looking at the crit ratio and skills, which are pretty good, and the core passive is maxed out. And we go to Nekomiya, Sokaku, and Rina. Well, let's just say they're what you call the cheerleader squad with minimal investments with their skills, core passives, and disc drives. On the second half, I would say these 3 are pretty much equal on power levels, with Nekomiya having the highest investment coming in second, followed by Piper with minimal investments as well, but she's carrying my soon-to-be Jane Doe's disc drives and Wenjin. And Nicole is also the same, but I maxed out her 6th disc drive because of the energy regen, which will be essential to consistently spam her E when we switch to her, but it won't be always like that, so yeah. So let's move on to node 1. So one tip I can give you here is when you're clearing trash mob, always go to the range enemies. So right now it's all melee, so what I usually do here is go to the side and attack with Ellen with her dash scissors to group them up and use my E afterwards to clear them. After that, there will be a single dude here, so I'd say switch to your stunners like Ambi, Chingy, Koleda, and Nekomiya to quickly proc your chain attacks. And we can see here we have enemies that are range and melee, so always prioritize the range enemies because the melee enemies will just follow you and you can just group them up easily. And same thing with the shooter Ethereal. Stun him as quickly as possible and you'll land the home run with your chain attacks. And you can most probably just do 1 stun rotation and he'll be dead as long as you have your main DPS built up properly. And on to the second half. Here is why grouping is so important. You get all of them in one bubble and it just feels so good when you group them up. It's just a dopamine rush, man. Holy. Now with this team, I have 0 stunners, so what I'm basically doing here is just quick swapping and rotating with my characters back to back with Piper. I'd say having the most field time just because of her spin attack, but it can easily clear with 2 minutes and 18 seconds because of the Shiyu Defense buff. Now let's move on to the second node. So we basically enter with Ellen and the enemy on a triangle formation. So we usually always go to the side and push the left one to the right who is behind the left soldier, while the top is always pushed back. So I can go to the top soldier and we can see a triangle shape and they are closer as well. So now you know the deal is dash attack and E. Now single mob, the usual tactic of using your stunner to quick proc your chain attacks. Here's another satisfying grouping. Prioritize the range enemies and go to the side, then obliterate them. Again, repeating myself, stay in your stunner, parry him if you can to build up that daze, but always go back to your stunner immediately when you defensive assist, aka parry with another character. Now in the second half, the start is a bit rough on the grouping, but we managed to quickly eradicate them. Now after the trash mobs, you will have to fight 2 elite mobs, Mr. Chonkers and Mr. Twinker. So you don't have to fight them at the same time, they go one after the other. So if you don't have a stunner like me in this team, I will always pair the enemies with the yellow flash, but that might change later when we get to the higher floors. So right now you can spam your assist points all you want in this low level floors since it doesn't consume that much, so you're good on that aspect. Also, you can see I don't really use the Nicole tech of her sitting down on her briefcase because as you can see, my knockback is freaking insane. I keep pushing the mobs out of the orb, so wasting time to prolong the durations isn't worth it in my opinion for my Nicole, unless you have like M4 maybe. I don't have like M4, so I tend to just press her E and quick swap to Piper or Nekomiya. Now for the third node, I replace Sokaku for Rina just because why not, no particular reason. Now obviously, grouping time, wow. Now then, Nekomiya, assault them to oblivion. Now this guy for some reason is so staggerable with just one parry. I basically ended up his career. This is basically like juggling your opponent in Tekken. I basically Kara cancelled a negative edge all over this guy. Now here's the power of Nicole's orb. It's just the suction power is so wild. Obviously I had to set it up with Nekomiya, and then Nicole took the spotlight while Nekomiya shanked the enemies, tickling their balls, and Piper came in to finish the meal, but she had some leftovers. But damn, Nekomiya's auto lock is freaking insane, man. And the same thing with this guy, ended his career with just 2 parries. And if you do 2 things like subscribing to the channel and liking the video for the algorithm, that would not end my career hopefully, but help it make my career. So yeah, on to the Ellen team. Starting off with the usual grouping, erasing the trash mob's existence pretty swift and easy. Now with this rotation, Rina will proc the Starlight Engine's passive quickly while giving us some pen ratio to do more damage in this team, so I would say this is comparable to Sokaku, but Rina enables it a lot more quickly since her rotation doesn't take as long as Sokaku does. Now onto the fourth node. Now we have these tower ethereal thingy-lingis that gives the enemies some buffs, so the first one will give the enemies an attack buff because of its orange color, so you should always prioritize these drill looking towers. So Mr. Chunker here, stun him quickly, you will probably be able to kill him in like 3 stun rotations, so just beat up his ass and parry him if you see the opportunity. Same advice as always, switch back to your stunner if you parry him. The quicker you stun him, the faster you'll kill him. And if it's blue, you need to quickly kill them before he procs the shield to the enemies, but if not, don't worry about it. Just kill the ethereal tower and you're good, just clear up the enemies later. Now Mr. Doggo over here, you really want to parry this guy so that you can remove his rock hard shield. So parry him as much as you can until it breaks, then as usual, stay in your stunner to proc your chain attacks as much as possible. Now second half, grouping as usual, nothing new here, just follow my advice and go for the range enemies. Now for Mr. Twinker over here, for some reason this guy is also staggerable, so again, juggle this guy and parry him as much as possible to kill him quickly because the later enemies are one of my most hated duos in this game. This is comparable to that duo in Dark Souls 1 and the Godskin duo in Elden Ring. So you want to focus on the most annoying enemy here, and that is Mr. Pussy Boy. Don't focus on Mr. Chonkers, he'll get damage anyways because he's always trying to crush your balls, so he'll be collateral damage when you focus on Mr. Pussy Boy over here. So parry him as much as possible because you'll build up days quickly on him, so do it. And if you're in a situation where you're getting ganged in the corner, don't panic and try walking around Mr. Chonkers, and if you can't get out, well then just start whacking Mr. Chonkers up. Now for the fifth node. So I'm not gonna repeat myself here. By now, you can pretty much group the enemies, so let's skip to the elites. This guy's staggerable, but he rarely shows his yellow flashes, so it'll be a bit difficult. But if you have something to stagger him like Piper's E, and if you see your ult, always use it now, when they're in their stun phase of course, because you will build it up quickly just by attacking and pairing these bozos. Now this is another annoying duo, but I'd say this is way less annoying, so you can just focus on the melee guy just because he attacks so frequently and you can parry most of his attacks, so you're gonna build up that ult quickly. And when you stun this guy, I'm sure you'll have your ult by that time already, so the shotgun guy will be collateral damage, so you can finish him off later. But if you can group them up together, hey, that's way more better. You'll kill them both at the same time. So second half, group the enemies and kill. Now the usual again, stun him quickly to proc chain attacks, you get the deal. Now for this duo, focus on the range guy. You hit the big robot guy anyway, so by trying to kill this shooter guy, just because he's hella big and chunky, he'll be collateral damage as usual. If you kill the shooter guy, well then, time to pen ratio this robot with a capital P. Now the sixth node. This is one of the toughest floors because you're just gonna tickle the enemy's balls until they laugh to death. Well, unless you've been doing that all all this time. So the usual, group the enemies, and after that, the big honcho himself, Mr. Twinkler, comes back for revenge with the endless stagger you did to him. He went on his training arc to beat your ass Asian style with the classic slipper your Asian parents tried to discipline you. Now tips for this guy. He stands still most of the time in his first phase when he's not half HP. So you basically just want to whack him as much as possible, obviously. But now here's the difference. You don't want to parry him all the time, but this is where you have to use your intuition. If you want to parry him, parry him. If you dodge, yeah? Parry him as much as possible until you run out of your assist points, and then start dodging, and always get a glimpse of your assist points. You don't want to parry when you have like 0 assist points, so just keep that in mind. So in this second phase, I think this is where you want to dodge a lot because his attacks will be more aggressive and quick. So I'd say parry him less and dodge more in this phase of his, and eventually you'll tickle him to death like me. So second half, Ellen's grouping as usual, yeah. Now the big ass robot. So this is just how I play this. This can be different from you. If you have Chingy, this will be a lot easier. If you have like a stunner that's not half ass built as mine, you can probably do better than me. So since my stunner can't stun this guy fast enough, I opt to just brute force it and do as much damage as possible with Ellen. So this won't be the first time I do this because I'll do the same strategy in the next node. So what I do here is always focus on one leg so I can impair him and build up days and do big PP damage instead of using my own stunner. Of course, I'll use them here and there if I parry him, but mostly Ellen, and using Sokaku to buff off Ellen's damage, and Sokaku kinda builds up days quickly here. So that's pretty nice. Ellen's basically carrying the whole team here. Now the last node. First half, group him, kill him. Now this guy, I like him because he attacks so frequently and enables my team to parry and proc Nekomiya's core passive, basically having 100% uptime on it. So the same tip applies to Mr. Twinker in the previous node. Parry him as much as possible but also dodge in between because this guy is higher level, so you can't build up days as fast as usual. So keep that in mind. Be cautious because he's hella fast as well. Be sure to iframe him with your skills and stuff like that. For example, like Lycon's E hold skill, Nekomiya's skill. If you play Ben bigger, parry him with his E properly. So on to the second node. And I'm basically doing the same strategy as the previous node of just brute forcing it with Ellen's damage because I can't build up these as fast enough. So if you have like a stunner that's way better than mine, then yeah, stay in your stunner and just freaking stun the enemy. So yeah, at this point I'll just show you the gameplay since it's pretty much similar to the previous node. So again, subscribe to the channel, like the video for the algorithm, and leave a comment. If this was your first time in Shiyu Defense, was it rough? Or if you have been clearing all the Shiyu Defense, leave a comment to help the others out. So yeah, I've been recording this at 3 AM. I need freaking sleep. Bye!